Hello and welcome back to Between Meetings and Motherhood. I am your host, Alexa Starks. I'm the founder of Executive Moms and the editor-in-chief of Motherhood magazine. And today, I'm very, very excited. I have our cover woman, cover
Mm,
mother cover
I like
of
that.
our spring issue of Motherhood magazine, Erin Schlozman. Did I say that right?
You did. Yes, that was
I
actually
did.
very impressive. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. And I'm happy to be
Yeah.
here.
Yes. Okay. Let's start with a little bit about you. So I know that you're a therapist, you are a maternal health specialist, you're an author of the most amazing book that's about to come out, right? The Myth of the Perfect Mom. And you have the Instagram platform Fourth Trimester Wellness. What
Yes.
did I miss?
I'm a mom of two.
Mom of two. How old are your babies?
So, this is like also bittersweet. When I started the book, I had a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and now I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. So they are not babies
Wow.
anymore.
Wow, that's wild. 5 and 8. So no more toddler tantrums, no more
No.
potty training mode.
I mean, no
That's
more
my
potty
world.
training. I think everyone in our house still has tantrums,
Oh no.
including the adults.
Oh
But
no.
but yes, we are past the. I found threes tantrums to be a little bit more intense than twos, but we're past
Mm,
that. Yeah,
yeah. And are they boy, girl, girl, boy, girl, girl?
boy, girl. So our first is a boy and our second is a girl, and they thankfully are best friends, which makes
Oh,
us. It's like my husband and I at the end of the day when everyone's asleep, we're like, okay, we're doing something right because they like each other,
yes.
so we're doing something.
I love that. We're the same way. So I have a 3-year-old son and our daughter is almost 2 and they
Oh, you
are
close
best.
and little.
Very close, very little. Yeah, we did the back-to-backs. And it
Yeah.
was intentional. It wreaked havoc on my body, but
Yeah.
we wanted them to be best friends and they are. And our daughter,
Oh,
she's extremely affectionate and she'll be like, hand, or she'll like go over and be like, I want a hug. And he'll be like, ugh, okay. And then she'll just be like,
yeah.
yay.
Yeah. It's so sweet. I mean, it's so sweet. It's so
Yes,
sweet. Yeah.
it makes it all worth it.
Yes, it
And then they're
does.
fighting every now and then, but
Yeah. Siblings.
yes. Okay. I want to talk about you. I want to know before the book, before your Instagram community, before all this work, who were you and what drew you into this world of maternal mental health in the first
Yes.
place?
Great questions. So I finished my undergrad and was like, I'm either gonna go into counseling or I'm gonna go into education. And then when I like really thought about it, I was like, I would be a horrible teacher and I would be a great therapist. So I applied to just a couple of grad programs and I mean, I was like 23 at the time, so it was
Hmm.
mostly places I wanted to move to. I was like, do they have a program? Sure, great. And I got my master's in community counseling psychology, and did a couple of years in until I was licensed. I worked in community mental health, so I was doing a lot of methadone clinics, chronic mental
Hmm.
health, emergency room repeaters, that kind of
Hmm.
like higher needs mental health clients. And then once I got licensed, I took a job at a hospital as part of a addiction medicine team. So I was working if someone was admitted into the hospital and the treating team of physicians identified a substance use disorder, or that was the reason that someone was admitted, they had an abscess from injecting, whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
Our team, I was the behavioral health provider on a team of physicians, and our team would go and assess, and then I would, do my like, well, what's the next step for you? Where like,
Right.
how can I help support you? One of the physicians I was working with specialized in working with pregnant women who had substance use disorders. So women who were using during their pregnancies or were on some sort of medication treatment to help keep them off of substances while they were pregnant. And that was my first exposure to like really in a clinical setting, working primarily with pregnant women.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got pregnant. And I
Oh,
had my first baby in the hospital that I was working in. And I experienced postpartum anxiety. And I figured
mm,
if I had postpartum anxiety and I worked in a hospital
right.
surrounded by psychiatrists and other therapists and MDs, and I didn't know how to find a specialist, how was a
Mm-hmm.
mom who had absolutely no idea how to navigate a medical system supposed to
Right.
figure out how to get support? And so that was the very beginning of me being like, I'm going to become that support. Like, I'm going to get the help that I need, and then I'm going to become that help for other moms.
I love that.
And especially with postpartum, I mean, we hear a lot about, especially during pregnancy, you hear a lot about postpartum depression, but you don't often hear about postpartum anxiety, which,
Yes. I
yeah,
had the same thing. I had postpartum anxiety and had no idea what it was, never heard
yes.
of it. Was waiting
Yeah,
for the
like why
postpartum
am I
depression
having
to hit
panic
and it
attacks all of
didn't.
a sudden? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Um, so I went through all of the training, the perinatal mental health training, and then I opened a private practice. It wasn't just focused on perinatal mental health, but this is part of what planted the seed for the book is I was
Mm,
with every new mom I was meeting, I was realizing like, oh, this isn't so rare. Like experiencing some sort of mental health changes
mm-hmm.
postpartum is not so rare. And then I learned about all of the
Right.
like hormonal changes, and I continued to learn and grow and meet with new moms. And I and then and I was primarily doing home visits, so I
Mm-hmm.
would go. I want One of my goals is always to like limit all of the barriers to support. So limit it to like demolish as many barriers to support as I can. And so one of the ways that I did that in my private practice was by doing home visits with new moms. I knew how hard it was to get to a therapy appointment when I
Yeah.
had a 3-month old. So
Yeah.
I knew that it was just scheduling an appointment and then showing up for the appointment are two totally different things. Very easy to schedule, not as
Yeah.
easy to actually like coordinate and
Leave the
get there
house.
and get everyone out of the house. And like, if you have a sleeping baby, you don't want to wake up your sleeping baby. You know, there's just
Yes. Yes.
a lot of different, like, have you eaten in 2 days? There's a lot of different components. And so I
Yeah.
figured if I go and I meet moms at their houses, that's eliminating a barrier for them. So I would do walk and talk sessions. I mean, all HIPAA compliant, obviously, but like
Mm-hmm.
we would do walk and talk sessions if they wanted, like, there were sessions where mom just sat on the couch and I stood and stood with
Yeah.
babies. Whatever it was, I just wanted to be a pillar for new parents during that
That's
time that can feel
amazing.
really isolating and really lonely and really scary. Like you don't know what you're doing. And I was
Mm-hmm.
working with a lot of high achieving, career oriented moms who then were like,
Yeah.
I'm not good at this and I'm not used to not being good at something. Um,
Yeah,
and
that is
then,
really hard with motherhood, that it's a lot of trial and error, and that's
yeah.
like nothing else in our life. It's
Well, and
like
no
you have to
one's, and
fail and then learn it.
I talk about this in the book, and like nobody talks about parenting as a learned skill. Like there's so
Yeah.
much of parenting that is you have to look. You don't know how to do it, and you have to learn
Right.
how to do it. And there's this like cultural assumption that we just know,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of things we don't like. How I studied attachment theory. How is like someone how like and it's still confusing.
Mm-hmm.
So then COVID came and I got pregnant again and I had another baby and she was born 8 weeks early.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not doing home visits because I had to protect the health of my clients and of my new baby and my postpartum
Mm-hmm.
self. And that's when I launched Fourth Trimester Wellness because I was like, the need doesn't go away just because
Yeah.
of like the public health emergency that we're all in.
Mm-hmm.
So how can I continue to reach new moms who can't
Yeah.
necessarily afford therapy, still need support? And that was the route. I didn't expect it to grow how it grew, but I'm honored that it did. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that it can be. And there's posts I made 4 years ago that I get new moms today being like, "Oh my God, this is exactly like this is such a touchstone." Like
Yeah.
even though I created it a different that stage in my life, it's still
Hmm.
meaningful for people who are in that stage of their life.
That's amazing. I love to see that. I love hearing that you wanted to do something that gives back and helps others. And I think something you touched on is really important about the myth. I mean, the whole idea that of your book of the myth of the perfect mom touches on like society's expectations of us and what we've been taught or believed or conditioned to think that we should be a perfect mom from the beginning because that's what we see in movies and shows, and we're conditioned to think that it should be easy when it's
Or
not.
like if you were raised by a boomer, like
Yeah.
they're like, oh, it wasn't hard, we just did it. And it's like, well, that's because they were raised by women who also just did it.
And
And
never showed any struggle, but they did
right.
struggle.
Right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think something that I suspected and then was validated when I was writing the book is that the struggles remain the same. It's just the cultural
Mm,
expectations that change.
yeah.
And so each chapter of the book looks at a different myth from birth through career.
Hmm.
Um, and so it really like we're able to break down like where do these or I my goal was to break down in each chapter like where do these
Hmm.
cultural expectations come from and the narratives that we heard growing up, how does that impact what we're expecting, and then I tell
Yeah.
some of my story and some client stories and all of that good stuff. It's all
I
there.
love that. Okay, so when did you realize then that it was more of like a society issue, more of a bigger issue than just individual moms struggling or individual problems?
Yeah. So it came to me in a couple of different ways. I had moms continuing to show up. C-section moms felt like they needed to like explain away why they had a C-section, and I was like, this is
Mm,
strange. You still gave birth. Why do you feel like you need to minimize your
yeah.
experience? Bottle feeding moms felt like they needed to explain away why they were feeding with bottles, and I was like,
Hmm.
another one, this is weird. Why do you feel like you need to explain away
Yeah.
like you're allowed to feed in whatever way works best for you? Career moms were
Hmm.
continuing to show up feeling like they needed to justify why they were returning to work. And it's like,
Yeah.
you're a first time mom, let's say at 36, and you have spent the last 20 years of your life building a career. You don't need to explain to me why you're going back to work. You're allowed to be a mom and you're allowed to work and you're allowed to like fulfill.
Novel idea.
Yes. And beyond like, especially in America, financially, it takes a lot. Like, it takes
Yeah.
a
You need
tremendous
two
amount of
income.
money. Yeah. So I started noticing a lot of moms justifying some of the choices they were making. And when you're
Mm,
justifying something, that means that there's some sort of shame or guilt around it. If you feel the
yeah.
need to justify the choices you're making as a parent, there's some sort of self-judgment or fear of judgment happening. And so I started to just dig a little deeper and figure out like where was that coming from, because it's not all social media. We like to like
Hmm.
blame it on social media is part of it. But it's not all social media. There's also pressure from family, pressure from fear from peers. Like
Yeah.
I really wanted to understand where all of these different ideas of what the right way to mom, where they came from.
Mm,
And but it all started with conversations with other moms, like really close friends who would kind of like pull me into corners and be like, okay, so I know that I'm supposed to be doing it this way, but I'm doing it this way and I don't want to be doing it that way. And I'm like, girlfriend, you're supposed to be doing it however is best for you.
yeah.
Like, there's no, as long as everybody is safe, there's no,
Hmm.
you don't need to do it like your own sister's doing it. Like, you do it how it's right for you. And then seeing the relief that that permission offered so many moms really, I was like, okay, this needs to be like, first of all, it's sad that moms need permission to mother in a way that's authentic for them. But then also,
Yeah.
like, I can be that permission.
Mm,
Like growing up, my mom used to say to me, whenever I was in a situation I didn't know how to handle, she'd always be like, "You can just blame me." Like she's like, "Just blame me,
hmm.
it's fine." And so like this book, it's like you could just say you read it in a book that you're supposed to be doing it your way until you feel comfortable enough to like own and
Yeah.
stand in like stand in what works for you without feeling embarrassed or ashamed about it.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting that you talk about being ashamed. Because I know I felt that a lot when with my daughter, with my second, she had really bad reflux. And
Mm-hmm.
I felt like so we ended up switching. I tried pumping. We switched to formula much earlier than I wanted to. And I felt ashamed that was it my fault that she has reflux? Like, did I do something to cause it? Is it my fault that there's something wrong? Am I not doing it well enough? I felt ashamed that I couldn't keep up pumping to give her more. So it was, and
First of all,
it felt like
pumping
it was,
is
oh,
exhausting.
it's exhausting. I hated
It's
it.
exhausting.
Hated it. Hated
Yes,
it.
it's exhausting. So like the fact I give accolades to any mom who will even commit to a day of exclusively pumping because
Ugh,
it's loud, it's overstimulated, it's exhausting.
yes, it is. But that feeling of being ashamed, of shamefulness or guilt, that mom guilt, that's something you probably see over and over in
Yeah.
with your clients, and you probably talk about in your book, right?
Yeah.
Is that's so conditioned almost or normalized. Oh, mom guilt. Oh, I have mom guilt, right?
Hmm. I mean, I experience my own like so I experience this with around rest as like a mom of two and an entrepreneur. If I have
Mm.
like 2 hours in my schedule and I'm like, oh, maybe I can like watch a show, and then it's like, no, you need to be like output, 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 and that
Yeah.
is unfortunately just a very American ideal. But that is something we talk about, like because rest is productive and you do need
Hmm.
it. And to keep up with the demands of having small kids, like you need
Yeah.
to be somewhat rejuvenated in a way that's not just chugging caffeine. And yeah, like deconstructing that mom guilt is a big part of deconstructing these myths of perfection is actually a big part of deconstructing the guilt as well, because once you can
Mm.
understand where that idea, the idealized idea came from, you can understand how it has shown up in your own life. Like your baby had reflux, so that's physiological. You
Right.
couldn't like when she was growing, you couldn't be like, okay, this part, let's make it like this. That's just
Yeah.
she was built beautifully how she was meant to be built, and you automatically assumed some sort of fault, like you were doing
Yeah.
something wrong when you you were doing everything right. You were trying to figure out how to
Hmm.
help. Like
Yeah.
that's not means for guilt, I don't think. I mean, you probably
Yeah.
felt it hugely, but looking back,
Yeah.
or like I felt like my daughter on the opposite end of that. My daughter, when she was 3, was like, "Can I have milkies from your boo boos?" And I was like, "Oh God, I didn't like." I did something wrong because now this is the like I'm her pacifier, and how do I make her
Right.
feel emotionally secure in other places, and I don't want her, I don't think she was nursing at 3, but we had to do a lot to end it,
Yeah.
and I had guilt around that. So it's like
Yeah.
no matter what we do, we feel guilty. I also think that guilt is like if we translate it, it's really a sign of how much love we have and
Hmm.
how well we want to be doing for our
Yeah.
kids. And
Yeah.
so I try with new moms to reframe it a lot as like you feel guilty as a sign of how much you love your kid, and that is
Yes.
okay, but you also need to be nice to yourself.
I love that. That's so, I don't think you can ever expect how the love is really going to hit you. Like I had no idea. I'd always heard like, oh, you'll love them like, so much love. But like, no, no. Like I would do crazy things for my
Crazy,
children.
crazy. Like what did I like, there have been times where I've like wanted to yell at other people's kids because I see
Yeah.
my kid, but it's like there's so much restraint in being a parent too. Like we have to teach them how to manage those
Yeah.
challenging people. There's always going to be challenging situations. There's always going to be challenging people. Like, how do
Yeah.
you handle that with grace instead of? But you're right. Like, it's the kind of love that would make us do
Make you do crazy
nuts.
things. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I want to talk about some identity shifts because one of the themes that I see a lot in your work is that motherhood is not just raising a baby, but it's also about this birth of the new version of yourself and you. And so I want to ask you how motherhood changed you personally.
Oh gosh, in so many ways. So many ways. My ability to love expanded exponentially. I think I realized it's so like so many ways. So I think of all the things I've done in my life, the thing that I'm the most proud of is not necessarily just like my kids, but my ability to parent. It has calmed me
Mm,
down. It has made me so much more flexible. Like I
wow.
realized, so I've had two C-sections, and in my first birth, I like pushed for hours and hours and hours,
Mm-hmm.
and then they realized my son was sunny side up, and they
Mm-hmm.
rotated him, and he rotated right back, and they were like, okay, I
Oh
think it's
no.
time, like it's time for a C-section. And it was like something during that birthing process was like, there is no such thing as control. Like it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And so my ability to surrender has really like I've recognized that the only constant in motherhood is that everything constantly changes. And the harder
Yes, it
we hold
does.
on, the tighter the grip, the more fatigued we get, but the less it changes our surroundings. So
Mm-hmm.
like learning to just kind of roll with it, as cliche as that
Yeah.
might sound, but like really being able to embody that surrender, I think has changed me permanently. It has changed my footprint permanently.
I love that. I love that.
And
I had the
also,
same similar experience last year with that realization of the more I stress about everything, the worse motherhood feels. And when I just
yeah,
let go and I'm like, okay, it's messy. I didn't pick up their toys tonight. I didn't sweep and vacuum. It's
people
okay.
live
I'll do it
here.
tomorrow. Yeah.
People live here. I tell
And
moms this
it's
all the
such a
time.
better
Your house is
experience.
supposed to look like people live there because people
Yeah.
live there. Like signs of life are good when you have kids,
Yeah.
you know? Well, and that's all like amplified by social media too, when there's influencers who are trad wives, but they have whole teams that normal moms don't
Yes.
see, and it just like exacerbates this idea that it's supposed to look a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think like those are like I'm not quick to anger, but I I'm I can be quick to worry, and
Was
these
it
are
like this change happened like as soon as you became a mom? This happened, or sort of once you got through the
I was a
first few
my
years?
first pregnancy. I was insane. So I was not insane. I wasn't insane. I worried a lot. I worried a
Yeah.
lot. So there's something in the birthing process that really like was like a light switch for me. Had to have
Mm-hmm.
been because all of a sudden. So I remember saying because both my mom and my mother-in-law were in the delivery room with my husband and
Mm-hmm.
I remember saying at some point, like, the outcome of this is already determined. I just have to figure out how to, like, navigate the actual
Mm.
experience. And
Okay.
that stuck with me. Like, the outcome is determined. I just need to figure out, like, how I'm going to make it through this in one piece.
Yeah.
And I think having postpartum, like, having a personal experience with postpartum anxiety really stripped me down to like it just really stripped me down to my most like raw moments and recovering from that I think is when that shift really happened. Like motherhood is going to strip you and then you're going to rebuild into like someone you don't know yet, some version of yourself you haven't met yet. And if surrender is what's going to make that easier, but
Yeah.
fighting it is what's going to make it harder. And and also I realized like once I was feeling well, it took me a couple like I started Zoloft and then within the first I started
Mm.
Zoloft in the first month and then like within 6 weeks I was like 6 weeks postpartum I was feeling like myself again.
Oh, good.
And I was like I love being a mom. Like I love this. I knew I could I was going through all of the motions. I was caring for my baby beautifully,
Hmm.
but it didn't feel
Yeah.
good. And
Yeah.
then once I felt good, I was like, oh, I can do, like, this is the best thing ever. And so that's
Hmm.
another fuel for me is like, I want moms to have a version of motherhood that they're able to enjoy.
Yeah.
And it has its stressful moments, and that's not to say like you're not gonna have moments where you're like, I just want to fucking sleep in. Excuse my language. That's fair. It's always
Yeah.
like yes and. But I think I don't know how succinctly I answered that, but that's how
Mhm. That
that's
was
what
that was great.
that's kind of what motherhood. That's how it was for me. It was sort of like a total, like literally you birth without much clothes on. It like strips you
Yes.
down, and you like have a human come out of you, and then what happens after that. I hope you have a good
Yeah.
support system.
Yes. Birth is wild, and I always joke that like I have no shame, like body shame,
Oh,
after
none.
giving birth. Like
None.
nothing. Like
None.
with my husband,
I
I'm like, you want to see me shit? Like I don't care. You've seen it before. You saw it twice,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
So
Like
nothing is
so
off the
I say to
like
any
table.
doctor appointment, because I'm with mammograms, with all that stuff now. I'm like,
Yeah.
you can wear like there's no modesty after
Yeah.
you have
They're like, oh,
birthed.
let me leave the room and you can change. And I'm like, you don't have to.
You don't have to
I'm just
leave.
gonna drop trowel right here.
Yeah.
Like, please
Yes.
don't leave.
Yes.
You're actually gonna
Yes.
take my time away.
Yes. Yeah.
I,
I'm like, I don't want
I
to
love
wait
that.
freezing cold for you to come back. So just sit here.
Exactly. Yeah. I love that. Okay. I want to talk about things that other women are maybe afraid to say out loud that we should be naming. Maybe it's something that you talk about in your book or things you hear with some
Yeah.
clients, obviously HIPAA compliant, nothing specific, but is there something that like our culture or society isn't ready to acknowledge or things that we're saying that we need to say out loud more?
So a recent study came out. I can't cite it right now because I don't have it in front of me, but a recent study came out that up to 100% of new moms have intrusive thoughts.
Mm. Mm. I just made a funny comment about how they should make a new Final Destination movie about postpartum moms' intrusive thoughts.
Yeah,
So it's like,
up to
it'd be
100%.
so good.
So, did I leave the straight flat iron on? Did I leave the stove on? Did I
Yes.
leave the oven on? Did I lock the front door, the back door? Are the windows locked?
What if I tumble down the stairs and we
What if
both
I,
like
and then
crash
there's
and
the
fall and
scary
die?
ones, like, what if what if I drive off this bridge with the baby in the car? Which
Hmm.
people really don't like to hear and really don't like to talk about. Or, like, what if I drown my baby? Which people also
Hmm.
really don't like to hear and really don't like to talk about. Up to 100% of postpartum women
Yeah.
are having some variety of, did I lock the front door? Is the stove off? To thoughts of, what if the baby slips in the bathtub?
Yeah.
And we don't talk about it.
When does it end?
Or we don't talk about it enough. Well, it depends. So this is when you get into clinical conversations, because
Mm.
if you are having intrusive ruminating thoughts that are disrupting your ability to function, that is different than just like a normal transition into, I don't want to, nothing is normal or not normal. That is different from a your everyday transition into motherhood,
Hmm.
just getting used to the role kind of
Right.
thing. So I like to, the way that I talk about it with new moms in therapy is like 1,000 years ago, moms were having thoughts about like, I need to protect my baby from snakes and like natural predators. And that is very similar to is the stove off, just in a
Hmm.
completely different time in history.
Right.
So it's protective. A lot of times intrusive thoughts are protective. We have them because our brains are telling us, how do we continue to protect our kids at all
Right.
times
Right.
from potential dangers.
Yeah. It's like
When it becomes,
hypervigilance.
yeah, when it becomes, think about it, like people with babies in caves, they had to protect their babies from scorpions, from snakes,
Yeah.
from, from natural predators, and now we live in homes and or condos or apartments or townhouses or whatever it is. We live in
Yes.
structures where snakes aren't necessarily a threat, but like a house
Thank
fire
God.
is
Knock on
something you
wood.
can a house fire is something you
Yeah.
can absolutely think about. Falling downstairs while you're carrying the baby is something you can
Hmm.
absolutely think about, and many moms do. So I try to normalize it in that way, in terms of like an intrusive thought is often a protective thought, and that doesn't
Hmm.
mean that something is wrong. But then, if it becomes crippling to the point where you can't function,
Yeah.
that still doesn't mean there's something wrong. That just means that might be a signal that it's time to explore those thoughts a little bit deeper, and take a look at how what role they're playing in your day to day functioning.
And I love that we're talking about this because I had never heard of intrusive thoughts
Yeah.
before I first had them. And it was wild. I was like, is this postpartum depression? Is this like, am I suicidal? But it's not really suicide. It's like, why am I playing scenarios in my mind of like wild made up scenarios? And
Yeah.
it's just so crazy. And they're like so extreme too. And I've
Yeah.
never said them out loud to my husband. I've never been like, hey, what if, I fell down the stairs because we have steep stairs. And
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah.
crazy, but it's so wild that like 100% of women have them. And yet
Yeah.
nobody talks about them.
Yeah, and I think too, part of it is like they're scary to have. Like you just
Yeah.
named. They're scary. It's scary. And I think like that can be another differentiating factor for a new parent, like how you respond to those thoughts. Like I've had many moms come to me say like I'm having thoughts that are scaring me. And
Yeah.
my response is generally I have literally heard it all
Hmm.
and worked on cases where there was actual harm done. So like I'm not going to be intimidated or overwhelmed by what your thoughts are. Let this be a safe space where you can just say them out loud so that you don't have to have them stuck inside, and then we can manage whatever it is we can manage. And just again, that permission alone, I think like moms having that permission makes them feel safe and supported and comfortable in sharing what those thoughts might be.
Wow. Yeah,
And in terms of perinatal mood disorders, like they're treatable. Postpartum
they
depression
are.
is treatable. Postpartum OCD treatable. Um,
Yes.
the most postpartum psychosis, to my knowledge, is the only perinatal mood disorder that the person experiencing it doesn't know that they're experiencing it. Um, and that's what makes it a mental health crisis, because they
Hmm.
don't know that what they're experiencing is a mental health emergency. But still treatable
Yeah.
if handled in the right way at the right time.
Yeah. And I think that's so hard. It goes back to not necessarily having the right resources at the right time
Yeah.
either, right? When
Yeah.
you're in the middle of postpartum and you're struggling with a newborn and figuring out how to breastfeed, you're maybe random Googling at 2 a.m., but maybe you can't form the right thoughts. And that's so hard to be in that moment. And so I want to know if you had to go back and give yourself in your early days of motherhood if you wish you knew something, right? What do you wish someone had said to you in those early
Yeah.
days?
I don't know like why we've culturally become so obsessed with like kids sleep, but
Mm,
I would tell myself, Erin, you're a bad sleeper. A bad sleeper. And
that's
actually
hilarious.
in the medieval times, it was very normal for people to be up for a couple of hours in the middle of the night and then go back to sleep. So I would
Oh,
say, yeah, isn't that so interesting?
it
They would
is.
like get things done and then they would go back to sleep. Probably
Hmm.
also protective, making sure that the fire was still lit. Like making sure that their
Hmm.
environment was conducive to life.
Right, right.
So I think I never got like too obsessive over my kids' sleep, but I had a really hard time when we would have a really bad night, and
Mm,
I would tell myself it's going to be like this forever. And so
right.
I would say to that version of myself, one bad night does not mean another bad night, and you just have to
Yeah.
get through the day. You just have to get through the day. And like, you're going to be cranky, and the baby's going to be cranky, and everyone's going to be cranky, and that's okay. You just need to get through the day. One bad night does not mean a lifetime of bad nights. It just means last night was hard. You'll manage today, cancel your plans, and then we'll try again.
Yeah, that is so hard. I think we get stuck in that feeling of this is forever
Oh
because
yeah.
every day
Yeah.
sometimes feels long, but you
Yeah.
just can't see a way out of it all the time and
Yeah.
it feels
I think
stuck.
in every stage. I mean, our
Yeah.
kids develop so quickly, so quickly. I
Hmm.
mean, think about it. In 9 months, they go from a teeny tiny nothing to a full, excuse my language, a full ass human. And
Yeah.
then within 2 years, that person is walking and talking and eating, and
Hmm.
each they're so they go through they develop so rapidly. And I think sometimes we forget that like we have to just ride it. Like
Yeah.
we have to just go with it because there is no control, there is no stopping it. It's you choose to enjoy it or you choose to be miserable. And um I'd rather I'd rather laugh at the silly stuff than get hung up on the stuff that makes me worried.
Me too. I love that. Okay, last question. I want to talk about your book to wrap this
Sure.
up. So if a mother finishes your book, she closes
Yes.
the last page, what do you hope that she feels differently about herself or sees differently about herself?
I hope that she is allowed to experience motherhood with a little bit more humor because it
Mm.
is pretty fucking funny. Like it's
It
absurd,
really is, especially
which
the toddler phase that I'm in right
it's
now.
like
Every day
insane.
is a
Yes.
comedy show.
Like I say to moms who come to me with like toddler stuff, I'm like, think about your toddler as your best friend in college when they were absolutely hammered. But that's how they
Yeah.
are all the time. They can't walk straight. They don't know what they want. They do actually really want grilled cheese and pizza that much and mac and cheese.
Yes.
And
Yep.
like their moods are going to change rapidly. And so, but beyond a sense, I say I want them to walk away allowing themselves to have a sense of humor around motherhood because really I want them to walk away being like, oh, this is like such a universal experience and I can do this and I can do this in a way that's authentic for me and I can do it
Hmm.
in a way that's true for me and I can do it in a way that I'm proud of and it doesn't have to look like how everybody else is doing it.
Oh, I
That is
love
what I
that.
would truly hope for. I mean, that's my hope for moms in therapy as well, that like you so many therapists say like my job is to be unemployed. Like I
Mm.
want you to be well enough that I am unemployed. I want this book to serve moms well enough that they don't need to look elsewhere for
Yeah,
to know that they're doing a good job.
that's amazing. I love that. And that's totally doable.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not rage bait's not my thing. I'm like
Yeah.
all like I want you to be happy and supported and proud um uh, and loving this season of life because our kids
It's
don't leave
amazing.
us.
I know. And they grow up
Eventually
so quickly.
I
It
know, and
sucks.
eventually they're going to like go away
Yeah, it's not
and
cool.
you know, like wouldn't you rather look back at this period of time as like, "Oh my God, that was absurd and amazing," than like
Yeah.
I hated every second of that?
Yep. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. When does your book come out and where can
Yes.
we find you online?
Okay. Oh God, I feel like I'm everywhere. I'm like what I so The Myth of the Perfect Mom comes out on April 7th. It is available on all of the major retailers online and it's starting to get picked up with independent bookstores and I've even seen it on Libby. So if your library doesn't have it, go and ask your library to get it. And or just you can make requests. And because I know that, for some $20 is not a lot, but for some $20 is
Hmm.
a lot of money. So make sure you check your library.
Hmm.
And you can find me online. My website is erinschlozman.com. So my first name, my last name. But the easiest and most accessible way is definitely on Instagram, Fourth Trimester Wellness. I'm sure at this point I've popped up in your algorithm at some point somewhere.
Probably. You're
Um,
everywhere.
and the link in my bio will take you to all of the places. So
I love
at
that.
the simplest, find me on Instagram.
And if you're listening to this, it's in the description. So you can
Yes.
always click below.
Yes.
And
Show notes.
Erin, this will come out when our magazine is released on March 31st.
Yeah.
So I guess if you're listening to this, make sure you get your copy and check out the magazine and see all the
Yes.
beautiful pictures of
Yes.
Erin and read more
Yes.
about her interview there. You can also order the magazine in print as well if you want it in
Awesome.
print. Some people like it in print, some people like it digital. So,
Yeah.
but Erin, thank you so much for
I'm a
joining us
print
on
type.
Between Meetings and
I
Motherhood.
like holding it.
I do too. I love it.
Yeah.
I love holding real books in my hand, not a Kindle and swiping.
Yeah.
It's maybe
Yeah.
the millennial in me, right?
I know, same, because I still annotate when I'm reading. And like I
Yes.
want to be able to reference, the parts that were meaningful
Yes.
for me.
Yes.
Millennials, I still keep a paper calendar. Like I can't.
I'm doing a whole planning thing and had to buy a big ass desk
Yeah.
calendar. I can't even see it, but it's
Yeah.
like a 2.5 foot wide like calendar so I could
But is
map
it
out and highlight colors.
yes, and highlight and everyone has their own color and their own pen
Yes.
color and their own highlighter color
It feels
and
so
then it's like
satisfying.
the Lisa Frank and all of us gets to like really move into adulthood.
Yes. Oh my God. This is like the most satisfying part of this conversation. Sorry.
My sister would call you, she calls me an analog bitch. She's like, "Why are you still using a paper calendar?" I'm
Oh.
like, "Because that is how my brain works. It's just that's what works for me." She means it endearing,
Oh.
not in like a bad way.
I mean, next thing we know, like walkie-talkies are going to make a comeback.
I
So
hope so.
that would be cool. Yeah.
I'm cool with all of the 90s stuff. Give me rollerblades.
I saw someone with rollerblades the other day and I was like, what? Where did you even get them?
You're nailing it. Yeah.
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 Well,
Well,
Erin,
thank
thank
you.
you
Yeah. Thank
so
you for
much.
having me. Such a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. And everyone, if you've, please don't forget to like, comment, share, follow, and stay tuned for the next episode next week. Thank you for being on Between Meetings and Motherhood, Erin.
Thank you.